Hi guys, welcome back. In the previous lecture, we set our cube's main motion. Now we'll try to polish it by using the graph editor. Let's open that up. If we select our object, we can see these curves appear in our graph editor. Each of these curves represent our object's channel values. At the beginning, working with the graph editor can be confusing, but once you get used to it, you'll no longer be able to imagine your animation workflow without it. Let's take a closer look. If we select our translation X, we can see the straight line. That means that this channel's value does not change. It stays the same throughout our animation. And if we look at our channel box, we see that our translation X channel is always set to 0. If we take a look at the translation Y, we see a different view. These yellow points represent our keyframes, and the line between them shows how Maya is calculating the motion between those keys. Here we can see how the line goes up and down. The translation Y in the graph editor is probably the easiest curve to understand, because it literally means that the higher the curve goes, the higher our object in our scene rises up. So, if we go to our breakdown pose in the middle, when our cube reaches its highest position, you can do that also by dragging this yellow mark, we can see how changing the key's position in the graph editor affects our object's position in our scene. I can do that by selecting the key and holding my middle mouse button while dragging the mouse up and down. You see? Be careful and try not to move your key either to the right or the left side, because it will change your keyframe's position in time, but not its channel value. If you hold down Shift while middle mouse dragging your key, it will lock your movements in either vertical or horizontal axis. It depends on which axis you started to move first. If I hold Shift and middle mouse button and start moving, for example, to the left, it will lock my movements in the horizontal axis, and I will not be able to move my key up or down, even if I try to do so with my mouse. I'm moving the mouse up and down, and nothing is happening. Let's move on to the next curve, which is translation Z, which we've used to move our object from left to right. Now, this curve is a bit more difficult to understand, because the higher the value is in our graph editor, the more to the left our object moves. So, we can see from our curve how the value of translation Z is going from a high to a low, meaning that our cube is traveling from left to right. The way our curve is shaped also tells us about our object's movement speed. If our curve goes in a straight line, that means that our object is moving at a constant speed. And if we have a curve like this, it means that at the beginning, we have a slow out. You see how the values are slowly changing here. Then it speeds up, and then it slows down again. So, our cube at the beginning of our animation slowly starts moving from the left, then accelerates, and then slows down again before reaching its final destination. In our case, we want our cube to move at a constant speed, so let's change that. Here we have all the different options for our curve shape to choose from to make our translate Z curve linear. If we hit play, we can see that our cube is moving horizontally at a constant speed, but it still looks weird because our rotation X is currently also slowing out and slowing in, just like our translation Z did before, since that is Maya's default curve type. Let's change it to a linear curve as well. Now our horizontal position and rotation are changing at a constant speed. We only looked at our translation y curve, but we haven't changed it. So let's go back to it. And in this curve, we want to do something a little bit different. You see, if I were to change this curve to a linear, our cube's movement at the highest point would look very strange and unnatural. So we want to have a slow in and a slow out at this key, but we still want our cube to take off the ground and reach the ground without slowing down. So what we need to do is to manipulate the tangents. When we select a key, we can see these little handles show up, which are called the tangents. These tangents can change the way our curve is shaped. So I'm going to select the first key, click on one of the tangents, hold down the middle mouse button, and drag that up. Same thing for the last key. If we play our animation now, we can see that it looks way more natural. The only thing that I still don't like about this animation is that it feels a bit too slow. I can change the timing of my animation by moving my keys in the timeline. I just need to hold down Shift and left-click on the key I want to move. When I do that, you can see this red bar appears with the little yellow arrows on the inside and on the outside. I don't want to move the outside ones because it will scale my animation, but I want to click on the arrows in the middle and drag it to the other frame, say frame 15. I'm going to do that for the last keyframe as well and move it to frame 31. Also, if you hold down Shift and left mouse button and drag your mouse across the timeline, you will select multiple keys, which you can then move as a group in the timeline with the same arrows in the middle. Now when I play the animation, my cube travels the same distance in a shorter amount of time, which feels much better. You can also copy and paste keyframes. Let's say I want to copy my breakdown pose and paste it to the end of my animation. All I need to do is position my cursor on the keyframe I want to copy and then middle mouse drag it to the frame where I want to paste it. Let go of my middle mouse button and then hit S to set a key. You can also do that by going to the frame, right-clicking on your timeline, selecting Copy, then going to the other frame, right-clicking and selecting Paste, but that will take longer. Finally, if you have a key which you don't want, you can delete it by selecting that frame, right-clicking on the timeline, and then selecting a Delete option. Okay, that was the overview of our graph editor. Now you should spend some time playing with the cube, getting more used to Maya, and trying everything that we've covered over these few lessons. Try to set some keys. Move them, delete them, play with the curve shapes. Get a feeling of how these changes affect your animation. In the next lesson, we'll go one step further and start working on a bigger assignment, which will be the main one for this section. I'll see you guys in the next video.